It's been a while,
he said. He didn't turn to look at her. He just kept watching the fire in his fireplace. He levitated an empty bottle in his magic, lifting it to his lips. He tilted it back, trying to draw a few final drops of juice from inside. Only when he was absolutely sure it was empty did Nexus set the bottle on the end table, next to a dozen others.
Forgive me if I don't get up and bow to my old queen, but I think we both know that isn't appropriate anymore.
No, I suppose it's not, Nick said, as he began to walk closer to Spell Nexus, having to weave through the clutter of the room.
So, what brings you to Canterlot? Where's your dear mother, Twilight? I'm surprised she let you get within 100 feet of me.
Twilight doesn't know I'm here, Nix admitted, as he came up beside his chair, beginning to feel the heat from the fire on her face.
Then I imagine Princess Celestia has a whole guard out searching for you. Proper etiquette is going to have such a fit when they track the mud on his nice clean floors.
Nexus said, as he used his magic to toss a fresh log onto the fire with a firm thud.
He's always been such a neat freak. Makes him an excellent butler, but it's made him a pain in my flank the past few months. So, what do I owe the honor?
He asked as he turned his head and looked past the edge of the chair, watching Nix through gaps of his unkempt, shaggy mane. Nix wet her lips, struggled to steady her voice. I wanted to ask you a question about the spell that made me.
Why would you want to know something about that?
He asked as he took his eyes off Nix and sat back in his chair. Shiny Armor thinks you did something to Twilight, Nix said as he dared to creep closer to the chair, stepping past a stack of boxes that had been piled up in a tall, impressive tower. He thinks the only reason Twilight took me back to the library after finding me in the forest is because you put a spell on her. A small, quiet chuckle escaped Spellnexus's lips.
I know just what charm Shiny Armor is thinking of. The Wanted Needed spell. A very powerful little charm that makes any pony desire a particular item just by looking at it. To limit such a broad spectrum spell to have a specific effect on a specific man, well, it would be child's play. In fact, that's partially why it's taboo to cast the Wanted Needed outside of a controlled learning environment. A few centuries ago, a stallion managed to modify the spell so it only worked on mares, then cast it on himself. He thought it would help him get noticed and get a date for some festival or dance. And he was right. The spell did exactly what it wanted to.
Spellnexus said, as he shifted in his chair to get more comfortable.
But that also meant every mare in the village wanted to date him. It wasn't long after that a riot broke out in the town. Mares were fighting with one another, and Princess Celestia herself had to come down to clean up the mess. From what I read, the stallion who cast the spell started a life of celibacy after that.
The poor man! Personally, you would tear me up afterwards.
And Twilight.
Spellnexus continued.
She would have faced a trial for the chaos she caused by casting that spell. Princess Celestia, however, was as benevolent as ever. She enforced the spirit of the law, which was not quite the letter, as he always has, and turned the incident into a lesson for her student. Yes, she's always forgiving. She likes to give second chances. Even though sometimes a pony does not deserve to be in the same room as her anymore.
He said as he quietly hung his head and sank deeper into his chair. So, did you do it? Nix pressed, moving another step closer. Did you use the blood on the spell for Twilight to cast a spell on her and make her care for me? Please! I need to know! Spellnexus turned his head slowly, but not to look at Nix. He instead focused on the floor, using his magic to flip through some takeout boxes, as if hoping to find a stale piece of leftover food. He even managed to find something. A fortune cookie. He cracked it in half gently, and popped both pieces into the mouth, as he read the small piece of paper contained within.
You will be visited by an old friend.
Spellnexus chuckled, and tossed the paper into the fireplace, as he continued to chew.
Sometimes those things are just creepy.
Did you hear me? Nix asked, taking another step forward. She was now even with the side of his chair. Did you cast a spell on Twilight?
No, I didn't.
He said flatly, before bringing a hoof to his mouth to pick his teeth.
I placed no charm on Twilight Sparkle.
At that moment, Nix released a breath she did not even realize she was holding. A smile spread across her face as he began to dance. She literally started dancing as the excitement filled her. Shiny was wrong. Shiny was wrong. Shiny was wrong! And that had to mean Lumberjack was right. Oh, thank you, Spellnexus. Thank you. She said as he bounced on her hooves. Shiny doesn't have to be scared of me anymore. No pony does. I can go back to Twilight and we can be a real family. I can have real grandparents, a real uncle, and a real aunt. She bent low, then lifted the air as her wings fluttered, trying to get her first taste of flight. I'm Twilight's real daughter!
What are you talking about?
Nix almost tripped when she landed, and had to stumble to keep herself straight. She looked at Spellnexus, who was sitting forward in his chair, with utter confusion written on the lines of his face. The blood in the spell, she answered him. Lumberjack thought that Shiny Armor was wrong, and that the blood in the spell made Twilight my real mother. And since he just said Shiny is wrong, then Lumberjack must be right. Nix began to smile and bounce on her hooves. I'm Twilight's real daughter, not just her adoptive one, and that makes so many things better. I mean, if I'm Twilight's real daughter, then that would explain why I didn't like being queen. It's probably why I like reading books too. It makes so much sense.
No ponies ever really asked me about the blood.
Spellnexus interrupted, as if he hadn't heard a word of Nix's jubilation.
Princess Celestia, Bastion your sets. They were too preoccupied with grander theories behind the spell. The thought of a unicorn bringing a pony to life through magic alone made the princesses worry, and made Bastion almost salivate. He is so passionate about magical theory. It's no surprise he does not have a wife. He's married to his work. Then again, I'm not one to talk.
Nessus fell silent for a time, staring at the ceiling as he licked his lips, hoping for something to drink. But with no juice or water at hoof, he brought his gaze back down to Nyx, and continued to speak.
But Princess Celestia was relieved, and Bastion was disappointed when I told him the truth. The spell, your spell, it was no proper resurrection. I did not create life. I just pieced back together what the elements of harmony tore apart, like some morbid jigsaw puzzle. You see, the elements never destroy. Thus, they did not destroy Nightmare Moon. They peeled her away. They peeled you away from Luna, like the blackened skin of a banana that's still too good to eat on the inside. Have you ever had a banana? I'm not too fond of them myself. I do not like the texture, but I hear Princess Celestia enjoys them for breakfast. She cuts them up and adds them to her cereal.
Spellnexus chuckled a little, as he lifted a metal fireplace poker with a levitation spell and prodded the logs within, causing one to split and fall open.
Imagine a princess eating cereal for breakfast. The royal chef must have had a fit whenever she asked for a bowl of hay flakes with cut-up bananas.
But what does this have to do with the blood in the spell? Nyx asked. Spellnexus nodded silently, acknowledging Nyx's question before his eyes became fixated on the large portrait in the wall, a portrait of himself he hardly recognized anymore.
In any case, when the elements of harmony peeled Nightmare Moon away, they left shreds behind. It was no stretch. I found everything I needed to make a living man. I had emotions. I had memories. I had flecks, sprinkles, seedings from the darkest part of Luna's own soul. The parts that had given birth to the jealousy that drove her to try and usurp the throne.
Nexus rolled his head away, looking away from his portrait, and focusing on Nyx again.
After all, not even the elements of harmony can peel away 1,000 years of evil intentions and power from a man without making a few mistakes. You can't cut that much of a sun pony in a matter of seconds without slicing away a little more than you intended. That reminds me of this time I got my mane cut. The barber was in a rush because he had a train to catch in.
But if you had everything you needed, then why did you kidnap Twilight?
Nyx asked, cutting Nexus off before he could go on another tangent.
At first, I had much grander intentions.
Nexus admitted. He slowly pulled himself up from his seat, putting his host on the floor gingerly, before walking closer to the fireplace. He used his magic to pick up the fireplace poker, and was now mindlessly prodding at the glowing embers.
I told the other children of Nightmare what strength it would give our newly risen queen. I told them I was sure I could use the blood to give Nightmare Moon invulnerability against the elements of harmony. I made many promises and had many theories, but none of them came into fruition.
Nexus laughed a little himself, as he drew shapes in the ashes of the fireplace. Shapes resembling Twilight's element of magic.
I was so naive. The elements in her magic are unlike anything else in the world. Trying to give Nightmare Moon, to give you, immunity from their effects was impossible. It would be like asking a pony who had never seen a drop of water to build a dam to stop a flood. Yes, I imagined the pony that comes to understand the magic behind the elements would be hailed as one of the greatest minds of our time. But that pony isn't me.
No, she's purple, got tricolored hair, is a unicorn, is very worried about her daughter, and will become an alicorn by the end of the story. Well, not the end of this story, but before the year is out. Hi, alicorn Twilight. Nyx dared to move a few steps closer to Spell Nexus, feeling as if he was avoiding something.
But then, what did the blood do?